All right, and it's important to note that the state equalization comes from primarily income tax and sales tax revenues at the state level. There are other taxes collected at the state, like excise taxes and whatnot, but primarily it's income and sales taxes. And we get this question somewhat regularly, well, what about the marijuana money? Because the state taxes marijuana sales. And what's on the screen now is really just a kind of a brief history of when marijuana taxes started to come into place here in Colorado. Okay, starting back with a vote in 2012, that would have been the 13-14 fiscal year. Okay, and different tax rates have been imposed with different votes and different legislation over the last decade or so. Okay, and that has led to some additional funding at schools. Primarily, that comes in the form of capital construction funding in BEST grants. BEST stands for Building Excellent Schools Today. Okay, those are capital funding grants where the first $40 million of marijuana tax revenue goes toward that program. And I don't know off the top of my head how much it cost to build our most recent new schools, but $40 million probably wasn't going to scratch the surface, especially on those two large ones. Okay? Now, where this has been really impactful is in rural communities. It's been really impactful in rural communities that are able to go and pursue these grants and just demonstrate the need and maybe not have the funds to match as much as maybe a district like ours would. Okay? And they've been able to benefit from these grants. But our most recent BEST grant participation was in 2018, where we received a BEST grant to deal with installing some dust collection systems in middle schools and high schools. That grant was worth, I think, about $130,000. That sound about right? And we had to match $260,000. Right? So to get those projects done, we actually had to provide a much greater match than what we were able to gain. And so you see the challenge for large districts. If you want to take on larger projects, you still have to come up with your own cash to benefit from some of these grants. Okay, there is some marijuana revenue that flows into state equalization because now some of their taxing structures have it going into a cash fund that gets distributed out, and we really don't see a quantification of what that looks like. It's important to note that just 2 years ago, this revenue as a whole was 0.7% of the state budget. Right? So it's not a tremendous amount. And I think something that may be of concern is that the peak levels of collection were in 2021 at the state level of about $425 million of tax revenue. And just 2 years ago, that was down to $282 million. Right? So that revenue source is changing too. And while it's not extremely influential, it's important to note that that is being altered as well.